What's up, sports fans? Welcome back to another episode of Gut Check Podcast. We're excited to sit down, talk some football, of course, but I got to rep the Mariners as it is baseball season. Here with me, good friend and co-host, Seth Floyd Hansen. How you doing today, man?
Good. I'm pumped off baseball season right now, too. Like you just said before we started recording, like we're both still in that hopeful mode for the next couple of weeks that maybe our team will keep it interesting. But the Giants have won 3 in a row. I'm just going to throw that out there. They've won 3 in a row. They're 5-3 right now. They're
going for the Mariners took the season or the series against the Giants.
I know the Giants were up like 5-1 in the 8th and blew it in opening day. That was heartbreaking. But at least that'll keep me. Funny enough, that's probably going to keep me busy till football season more than basketball will. I haven't gotten into the NBA at all, man. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I tried to watch some basketball yesterday. I was flipping through the channels. The Masters was over. Needed something to watch. Lakers Nets was on, so I was like, "Oh, this is awesome. Let me turn it on." It was the third quarter. LeBron James injured. Anthony Davis injured.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant was playing a little bit. James Harden didn't play. Kyrie Irving had just gotten ejected before, along with Dennis Schroeder. So I'm watching Alex Caruso and Joe Harris.
Whoa, dude! Why you're gonna knock Caruso like that, dude? Caruso's the man. Now, if I do want to say no LeBron, no AD, and the Lakers still blew out the Nets last night. I'm just throwing that out there.
Big win.
But I actually if I'm being honest, they're like the 5th seed right now, and that makes me want to watch the playoffs more than if they were the 1 seed. Because basketball, you know what I mean? Basketball has that way of I don't know, it comes down to 2 or 3 teams each year. But the Lakers being a 5 seed going to the playoffs, I think they're playing the Mavericks in the first round if it ended today. So I'm probably going to tune in a little bit to that. But I'm definitely more excited about baseball than basketball right now.
Yeah. Now's a great time of year because you can turn on the TV and basically anytime you can find a baseball game on or you can find a basketball game.
Sure.
And this is when basketball matters even more now. You're getting close to the playoffs right around the corner. These teams matter, and they're still pretty fun to watch. So.
Yeah, for sure.
But as our tendency, we will focus on football here, talk some football, hit up some news about some trades leading up to the draft, what that's going to do to impact the draft, how we think some teams are going to react to that. And then we had a question from one of Seth's great students and one of our fans now that we'll get to at the end of the episode. But really, man, the big news since we last sat down and talked was the Sam Darnold trade. There was some talk that was going to happen. Obviously, the Jets were leaning quarterback with the number 2. All the reports are now saying they're going to pick Zach Wilson with number 2. So what do they do with Sam Darnold? And they trade him right away to the Carolina Panthers for 3 picks. How do you feel about it?
Well, I like it. One, if you guys remember, anybody who's seen the episodes leading up to this, I was openly saying how the Niners should fix their season is go buy low on Sam Darnold. So I definitely think he's capable, and I'm just banking off the fact that you will get more out of him than what he had. That was the absolute rock bottom for him in New York under Adam Gase. So I fully expect the Panthers to turn Sam Darnold into something better than what he was. I don't know how much better that'll be, but I imagine it won't be terrible. I imagine he'll be okay. He's got Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore. They've got some pieces, and who knows what'll happen with the draft if they'll add what they'll add. I read a report this morning. Rumor, speculation, whatever, but that the Panthers are really high on Kyle Pitts. News groundbreaking. Everybody's high on Kyle Pitts, but the Panthers might be in a position to do something about it. So it's something to keep an eye on. But it also, more than anything, it just felt like the Panthers. What other choices did they have? The 49ers really threw a wrench into a lot of these teams' plans by trading up to 3. They really did. They're not going to be able to trade with Atlanta at 4 because in division rivalry, they're not going to do that. And by then, so to me, the Panthers, and this might be getting off topic a little bit, but the Panthers trading for Sam Darnold tells me exactly what everyone thinks about this draft class, that there are 4 legitimate quarterbacks
Mm-hmm.
in this class, not 5, and those 4 are most likely Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance. And then after that, none of those guys should go top 10. Mac Jones and that he would round out the top 5. So I just think that they are like, there's no way we're getting one of those 4 guys, because the first 3 are off the board in the first 3 picks, and then someone's drafting somebody at 4. So that's what I think. And I'm a believer in Matt Rule. I'm a believer in what he's going to establish over there. I do think he'll be better than Teddy Bridgewater. And if you're a Panthers fan, like, you're excited, you're probably bummed because you thought you were getting one of these young guys, but you're excited you don't have to watch Teddy Bridgewater anymore. No shade at Teddy, but I mean, I would bet on Sam Darnold over Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, I think, it's kind of a tough break for Teddy Bridgewater because he was playing so well in Minnesota before he got injured, and then never really bounced back. One of the things you look at with Teddy Bridgewater last year was they were winless in 1-score games, or when they were trailing in the fourth quarter. So he never had that comeback win, which so many quarterbacks are graded against, are rated on. It's not purely his fault, but you definitely want to be able to lean onto a quarterback at the end of the game to have that game-winning drive. And Sam Darnold may be it. I mean, who knows yet? But what we saw at least last year with Teddy Bridgewater was he wasn't there. So, yeah, I haven't been high on Sam Darnold. Yes, you can blame Adam Gase, but also coming out of college, he didn't play a lot. He had a lot of turnovers. And the turnover thing always just doesn't translate as well. That's a tough bug to kick, especially because the NFL just gets so much faster and so much more difficult. So I am a little concerned with that. However, love the pairing with him and Joe Brady. Joe Brady was with the Saints, then moved over to LSU. So the year that Joe Burrow was at LSU before Joe Brady, he had a 57% completion percentage, 16 touchdowns, right? The next year with Joe Brady, bumped that up to a 70+% completion, 60 touchdowns. Right now, Sam Darnold is sitting at a 59% completion percentage through his career as well, with the same kind of numbers. I don't know if he's going to turn into Joe Burrow, but nobody thought Joe Burrow was going to be the Heisman Trophy winner and completely blow out everybody and have the best college season of all time.
Yeah.
But Joe Brady shows up, and that's what happens. Sam Darnold with some good weapons, just like Burrow had. Christian McCaffrey pairing up again with Robbie Anderson. He had his first 1,000-yard season. There's already that connection there. You mentioned DJ Moore. Obviously, really, they could get Pitts. I don't know if Pitts is going to fall to 8. Certainly, if he does fall into their lap, they're going to take him. Yeah. But you have any wide receiver there you can take and be happy with. You could get Chase, Waddle, Smith. I mean, one of those 3 guys I think is going to be there, and you should be pretty excited about it. I think that's the way they go with Sam Darnold. You got to build around him. We talked about it right after the trade happened. Last year, the Panthers went all 7 picks defense. This year, I think they need to at least start off offense and build around Sam Darnold. Maybe even get, not first round, but get another running back to help out Christian McCaffrey. Sure. You saw, if he gets hurt, your whole team's kind of shutting down. So
well, Mike Davis did fill in pretty well for him last year for a team that wasn't really all that competitive, but as far as for the playoffs and stuff. But I would like the Kyle, again, I can't imagine Kyle Pitts going anywhere and me not liking the fit, because he's just going to be really good. But specifically for Darnold, it could open up a lot of things if you were able to add Pitts. Yeah. It could be interesting in Carolina. I mean, Darnold, the reason you are more aggressive for a guy like Darnold than a Jimmy Garoppolo or I don't even know who else is even on the market or even I guess Matt Stafford or whatever, someone who's traded to Jared. He is, I think he's 23. He's legitimately the same age as some of these dudes coming out in the draft. So you're buying low for a guy who, if you can fix him, if you can just get him in a situation where he plays just marginally better, you could have a guy for the next 5 to 8 years that brings some stability to your to your franchise. And maybe like I'm not saying it's happened, but maybe he turns into like what they thought he was going to be or close to, and he was a Pro Bowler. And guess what? You have a guy for 10 years now, and you got to keep that number 8 pick. So that to me was why Darnold is so intriguing. And for what options the Panthers had, like this was the best move they had, because I wouldn't have ran it back with Teddy Bridgewater either. I couldn't imagine myself wanting to do that. But I also at 8, I don't want to draft Mac Jones or Kyle Trask or Kellen Mond if they're the only ones on the board. So maybe you trade back and try to grab a Mac Jones later. But clearly they weren't. And here's the other thing. If we're just going to get into this really quick, because we're always bringing it back to 49er stuff because that's what I do.
Of course. Oh, we are?
Yeah. Well, you're a part of me. The Panthers, they don't want to take Mac Jones at 8. That's essentially what I'm hearing, because there's no way they believe the 49ers are taking Mac Jones, which means Justin Fields or Trey Lance might be dropping, and they're not going to wait and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like to me, they know that Mac Jones is going to be the only one left. And guess what? Matt Rule coached Mac Jones in the Senior Bowl. So if anybody knows Mac Jones, it's going to be the Carolina staff, because they coached him directly, and they're telling you he is not at least a top 8 pick, probably a top 10 pick. So I don't think the Panthers had any other options, and you just hope that all those draft picks you used last year, all on defense, that they start to pan out and they start to come to fruition and start to build. And then if you get some stability at the quarterback position, like you could see the Panthers take a good step forward this season. I haven't seen any negatives about this trade. I think most people feel the same. Like the trade up to 3 by the San Francisco really threw a wrench in things, and that that it's not a terrible swing to take on Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I don't think there's negatives seen by Carolina. You may wonder, like, what are they going to do with Teddy Bridgewater now? They said he can seek a trade. You still may want to keep him there as a veteran backup. Now, they didn't have to give up any draft picks. He's also on his rookie contract still. So they have until 2022 to pick up that 5th-year option. And then still picking up a 5th-year option, they don't need to re-sign him until 2023 and have a big contract. So he's on a 2-year trial period, basically. If he stinks this year and you finish 3-13 or 3-14, I guess, then you're going to be in a position to draft another quarterback. You don't need to pick up his option. If he plays well enough, you're like in the 20s, you sign him again, you try again.
You're going to know quick whether he's going to be there for more than 2 years. Like you might pick him up. You might pick up his 5th-year option and let him stay another year while you figure out what to do. But you're going to know within the first half of the season, like, oh, is this guy going to get extended, or is he just kind of a rental? But even then, like, if you get better play out of him than Teddy Bridgewater, like, you didn't give up a ton to get him. So
you really didn't. And we're almost thinking of him as a rookie, but he's not a rookie, right? He's played for 3 seasons, had some injuries, missed some games, but he's played for 3 seasons in the NFL. So like you said, this is just going to add to his tape. You don't need to see, 2 more years of him playing to make a decision. Like, you could see 1 year, 8 games in almost. You're like, okay, is this a long-term solution or what? What are the circumstances?
Yeah. Well, and assuming we have a normal off season too, or somewhat normal. Have they ruled on anything like with minicamp or anything? I haven't seen. But as long as there's somewhat normal of an off season and he can learn, I mean, that would be the only thing. Like, how long does it take somebody to learn Joe Brady's system? But like you said, he's not a rookie. He's battled through some adversity. He hasn't always come out on top, but like he's playing with house money right now. Like, he's got nothing to lose. He's just going for it. So, and I like Darnold. I have those shades of USC football in my past. And he was my favorite quarterback coming out of that draft. Shows you what I know about quarterbacks, but I like him and I want him to succeed. So I'll be rooting for him.
Now, from the Jets' perspective, you can look at it basically one of 2 ways. Did you want to have Sam Darnold still there with a new coach and a new system, and then build around him with the plethora of draft picks you have, right? If Kyle Pitts, is really the number 2 overall guy on some draft boards, like, then you pick him number 2. And that's a huge weapon that you have for Sam Darnold, right? And then so many other picks from that Jamal Adams trade. and so forth. So you build around them. Now, I think when you get a new coach and a new GM, like there's a lot of pressure on that GM to just say, like, these aren't my guys.
Yep.
I need to make a statement. I need to like know what I'm working with and make a decision. So I'm going to pick a guy. I'm going to pick some guys. That's my team, and we're going to move forward. So let's cut some baggage. You know what I mean? Whether that's fair or not, I just think that's how it is.
Oh, 100%. If you're a new GM, a new coach, you want your guy. Man, if I had to decide for myself, like, I would have kept him, because in my eyes, and the reason I think they didn't keep him is because I don't think, as of right now, that draft class for QBs next year is looking very promising. And so this is a good draft class for QBs, and that's what they felt. But to me, man, you if you believe in your system, which I know they do, I know they believe, coming from Kyle Shanahan's system. If you think you can just help him improve, like you said, draft a Kyle Pitts at 2. You have all these draft picks to build the team. And guess what? If it still doesn't work out, you have all the other pieces there. But now you are risking the miss. Like, say you take Zach Wilson, which it sounds like they are, and I'm rooting for him too. But let's just say he doesn't pan out. Now you're out a quarterback and you're out another piece that would have been a really high floor, low risk. Like, the Jets are not in a position. It's hard because a quarterback, you always have to take a risk. Like, you want to find the guy, you're going to have to take a risk. But every other spot, the Jets need non-risk players. They need to elevate their overall talent pool. And taking a Kyle Pitts or a Penei Sewell at 2 would be 100% the way to bring some legitimate talent, high floor guys in your operation. That's what they need, high floor guys. That's what they need, guys that can come in and play. So to me, if you do that and then it doesn't work out, you're still probably like, look, if it doesn't work out, you're probably still picking pretty high. That's why you're in the market for another quarterback. You already have a bunch of pieces. You can then trade future draft capital to try. Now all we feel like we're just a quarterback away. I mean, it's what the Niners did. They feel like we're just a quarterback away. We can trade a couple first. But the Jets, man, to me, you need some foundational pieces, and I just don't. I think I'm just so low on Adam Gase. I just think that there's more to what Sam Darnold is than what he's shown.
Yeah, and that certainly could be. I do agree. Like, building the foundation, offense and defensive line, and then building around those guys is a great way to build a franchise. You saw it with the 49ers. Cowboys on the offensive side have been able to hit with that O-line, and have some success. They've missed on the D-line, but I think that's that same kind of format, right? The Titans have done it. They're just missing some edge pieces, right? The only thing is, I don't know if Darnold is going to be a guy to elevate others' floor. Okay. Where you may think Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, whatever, those guys are going to elevate some people's floor. So, and it's tough because a quarterback is the only position that's graded against, right? I need to bring in a quarterback who's going to make other people better. Penei Sewell is going to protect my quarterback, but he's not necessarily going to make my wide receivers better. He's not going to he'll make my running back maybe a little bit better, right? But the quarterback just has so much impact across that offense. He can make a bad O-line look a little better if he can escape the pocket. Yeah. He can add to a running game with scrambling. Sure. He can throw wide receivers open. Yeah. So that's where, look at next year's draft class. They'll find some people to talk about to go in the first round, but we don't know yet, right? Who those people are and if they're good, right? That
Cincinnati quarterback, I can't remember his name, but he's like the one that people are kind of talking about, but yeah.
Yeah, but you have some guys in Zach Wilson and Justin Fields. Yeah. Which one of those two do you want to take and elevate the rest of your offense? And also maybe just sell some tickets, right? Like, sure. At the end of the day, it is a business. Sam Darnold stunk.
I'm sure Jets fans are over him, yeah.
Yeah, you got to move on. You're trying to pack the stadium again post-COVID. What's going to sell some seats? Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, I think, in a young, like, dynamic quarterback. It's going to do that. So,
yeah, no, I get it. And let's say you're, even if it's not this year, but next year, Zach Wilson is looking like, like maybe he has a Josh Allen type of rise. You know what I mean? Where you just are like, man, this dude really just makes plays. And you're right. That's going to be more effective than the couple other pieces you could add. Like you have to have a quarterback. But I just think there's something to be said, man. I don't ever buy into the like Super Bowl or bust. We don't care about anything else. Like if you're not winning the Super Bowl, you might as well be picking first overall. I'm like, no, that's not really, like you said, this thing is a business. And as a fan, like I just want some stability in my franchise. Like I want to get to Thanksgiving weekend and still be interested in my team having a shot at the playoffs.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And like, because most of my life by Thanksgiving weekend, I don't freaking care anymore because my team hasn't been good. Like I've only had a few. So I'm just saying, like, there is something to be said to providing stability for your just for your fans to be competitive. Like, and then you work from there. Like then you get lucky. Like that's the way you do it. But this is a home run swing. This is a home run swing. You're hoping you hit, and it's scary because the quarterback can be so unpredictable to see how they translate from college into the NFL. But hats off to the Jets. Hats off to the Jets. Like I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say with this is I think it is still a no-lose situation for the Jets because you've moved on from Adam Gase, you've moved on from that whole regime, and you got rid of Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold goes to Carolina and is a superstar, all-pro, Pro Bowl, whatever, everyone's just going to say, well, Adam Gase was terrible, and Joe Brady and Matt Rule are geniuses, and they're Sam Darnold, right? And then if you hit with Zach Wilson, right, like that's you're a star, right? You're the best. If you miss with Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, whichever one you decide to pick, if you miss with one of those guys, it's like, well, you know, you tried. Like you had to get one of those guys.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's really going to fault them. It's not like they're reaching for these quarterbacks. Now, if they go get Kellen Mond number 2, then that's maybe or maybe a lose, right?
Or Mac Jones. Ridiculous.
So I didn't want to get into our draft episode. Because I don't want any spoilers, but the way you talk about Mac Jones,
dude,
I think you're tipping your hat a little bit as to what you're doing with the number 3 pick.
I'll tell you right now, it is not Mac Jones. I'm telling you right now, Mac Jones is going to he's going to drop, dude. He's going to be like, if I had to guess where he's going today, it's 15 to the Patriots. Like he's not, and that's the absolute highest I see him going. That's what I think. But
okay, so you're just not buying any of the like Adam Schefter insider talk.
No, they have. There was a report this week that said basically there's only like 2 people in the organization who know who they're taking, and that's Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. And that John Lynch or Shanahan didn't even share his draft information, his evaluation of the QBs, with any of his scouts, any of the guys that he works with. He just wanted theirs, and he wouldn't share his with them. So literally nobody knows. Nobody knows. They're only speculating because he's like a Kirk Cousins type. But I don't know why anyone in their right minds, anybody who's being compared to Kirk Cousins over and over should be the 3rd pick in the draft. Yeah. So we'll see. But I would be shocked. I'm just not buying any of it. So
I'm with you, man. I don't get it either. I don't see it. Like it's 1 year. Interestingly enough, Mac Jones and Trey Lance have started the same amount of games in their college career.
That is
so like
pretty
you
surprising.
Don't know about like either of them. Yeah. So Mac Jones came in for 4 games 2 seasons ago, and then 13 this year. And then Trey Lance won this year, and then like 16 the year before. So they're both at 17. You have the same amount of tape on both, and both aren't jumping off the page for me there. But I can't take Mac Jones there.
It's just. I know. Well, I mean, the things you can say about Mac Jones, played for Nick Saban. That's usually a plus. Yeah. He stuck it out, right?
Like he was
quarterback. Yeah, that's true. But see, he stuck it out. Like he's probably a mature kid for the most part. Like I don't know his character and stuff, but I'm just assuming because he's a senior, like he's been around it, he's been through some adversity. I assume playing for Nick Saban for 4 years makes you a more mature individual. But Trey Lance, like it's just like. If you're in the top 5, especially, like you need to pick people with elite physical traits, and Mac Jones doesn't have any of that. Trey, you could at least like if the 49ers end up drafting Trey Lance, I'm tipping my hat again, but if they end up drafting Trey Lance, like at least I can justify like this dude's ceiling is really high, even if his floor isn't very high. This dude's really big. He's really fast. Like they're taking a swing, and he must have saw some great.
Yeah.
There's just nothing on the tape for Mac Jones that's like, man, he should be the 3rd overall pick because he's Jimmy Garoppolo. That is what he is. Like, why would you get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo just to draft his next successor? It just doesn't make any sense to be the exact same guy. So anyway.
Yeah. It is interesting because the NFL is so clearly trending towards the like mobile, scrambling, like dynamic quarterback, right? However, you could have a pure runner like Lamar Jackson. You could just have a scrambler like Patrick Mahomes. Either one of those guys, right, is going to tear you apart. Josh Allen, like the list goes on.
Kyler Murray,
However, reigning Super Bowl champ, reigning MVP, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, pocket passer. Not comparing Mac Jones to either of those guys, right?
Sure, no. You're right.
But there's something to be said that those guys can still be successful. Now, do you see Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in Mac Jones? I don't know. And I still don't know if you can take him top 5 just based on like because last thing, Tom Brady, yes, he's a pocket passer, but like what makes him great isn't that he's just this super accurate, super strong arm pocket passer. He's great accuracy, great arm, but he's a competitor. He's smart as heck, and like he just wants to win and play football. And I don't know if you can replicate that anywhere else.
I agree with that for sure. Those guys, and what's the common denominator with those guys you mentioned? They're older. They've been around the game. They're smarter than any of the other quarterbacks in the league, probably, except for maybe Patrick Mahomes. But look at how good Patrick Mahomes is. He's got what they've got, but he's also more athletic. Rodgers is actually pretty athletic, but we view him as like a pure pocket passer, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just think you're going to see that you're kind of seeing the shift. You're seeing the end, those tail guys. I mean, it might not be for another 20 years for when Tom Brady retires, but as soon as Tom Brady retires, you're going to see this real shift. Here's my thing. Like, you want to know how I feel about Mac Jones in a nutshell, like as we're going to wrap this up. The 49ers could take Mac Jones and he could win them a Super Bowl in the next couple years. And I will still say, sick. You reached. Like, it still wasn't like, why did you take him at 12 and keep your other first round picks? Like, it's not about like, it's the same, like I've given this before. It's like buying a Camry for $100,000. I'm getting a really reliable car. Sweet. I could have bought it for $30,000. Why did I buy it? I get that it's being productive and it's producing, but I paid so much for it. Like, why did I do that? Why didn't I just find a better deal? Like, Mac Jones could go on to be a great player, but no one is valuing him at that. I don't think. Like, I can't imagine they're valuing him as a top 5 pick. So just take him at 12. Like, I could stomach it if you took him at 12 and didn't trade any other picks because you're like, well, then he clearly has something, I guess. Yeah. But why would I trade all this when I know he could be there at 12? Even if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I would have been like, hey, you guys, this is freaking awesome. I found this guy is the next Tom Brady. I found him. And the best part is no one's picking him in the top 20. Like, we could just we could trade back if we want and get this guy. Like, it's just how you manage your assets. It's an investment, and it just would have been such a bonehead move. Like, I don't think enough people realize, enough of your average NFL fans, I would say, just really understand that. You know what I mean? So
not smart people like you and I.
No, like, you know, I mean, not genius, but not everyone can be geniuses like us, experts. So
this is true. Yeah. No, you said that same thing when the Giants got Daniel Jones.
Exactly.
When they got him, it's like, okay, fine, he could be the next Eli Manning for you guys, but you could have gotten him 10 picks later.
Yeah,
you know, with your first pick, because they had like 6.
They had
17,
6 and 17. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could have picked an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman at 6, and then still got your guy at 17. So it's just how you manage your assets. But
absolutely. So I will just leave it at saying our draft episode is going to be pretty exciting. I do like now where you're leading, because now I can start thinking about my number 4 pick.
Yeah.
I was going to be. Yeah, I won't say anymore, but I could have gone a couple different ways with number 4, depending on where you were going with that.
I pretty much just told you who I'm taking. So.
Oh, well. Clearly, you're getting Kyle Trask.
Exactly.
Got it.
Or Kellen Mond. Yeah, toss up.
So, all right. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we had some fans reach out And by fans, I mean Seth's students who were very appreciative of sending some likes, sending some comments and some questions our way. So keep them coming if you guys are listening. And one that we had that we thought was good and relevant kind of for right now is, what do we think is better, college football or professional NFL football? So we can keep it to football. We can keep it like, I don't know, do you just like watching one better? Is a better atmosphere? I'll let you take it how you want, but I'll pass the question to you first, Seth.
Perfect. Yeah. Shout out to fifth period. Okay. The fifth period, my homeroom. Okay. We spend more time in that class than any other period. So I've gotten to know them pretty good. This question, I promised I'd give him a shout out. Okay. He was really excited about it. This question comes from one Andrew Waters, also plays football, wants to be a Navy, wants to be a Navy SEAL one day, Matt. So you guys,
okay. We'll talk to him about joining the Army, which is better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Respect, kid, great kid. So, and I've been. This is a topic that I've like thought about a lot before, and I want to start by saying I love both because I'm focusing on thinking about football. I love both because I love the game of football. However, the way the leagues are set up, if you can even call college football a league, but like the way it is set up, like NFL is so much better. It is so much better from a fan's perspective more than anything, because my number one argument will always be, in college football, unless I'm a fan of one of 5 or 6, maybe 8 teams, I don't have what am I playing for? What am I hoping for my team at the end of the year? Because there's only 4 teams going to make the playoffs. You have a good idea who 2 or 3 of them are before the season even starts. It always plays out that way. You can always guess what 2 of them are at the beginning of the year. We're never going to go into a season where we think there's a top 4 favorite or top 3 favorite, and then none of them get in, and then there were like people that just snuck in somehow. And it's because of how college football is set up, because it's recruiting. It's not based off of a draft. So the best teams always get the best players because they can go. Those players can go wherever they want. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma. Like these teams just get who they want because they're so good every year, and they're being rewarded for that. So it's hard for teams to build their way up when they're getting 2 stars and 3 stars rather than 4 and 5 stars. I just love at the beginning of every season in the NFL, like my team has a chance. Like my team does. And honestly, like I know that some people this year, we're talking about the Super Bowl champion, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like people picked them, but I think more often than not, a large number of people didn't really think they were going to do it. A large number of people thought the Buccaneers would be better, but they didn't even win their division, and they had to go through the wild card, and they won the Super Bowl. And I would never have put money on it. I never would have, because I thought Tom was gonna fall off a cliff at some point in his play, and I just never thought it would come to fruition, but it did. And then 2 years ago, the 49ers went from 3-13 to 13-3 and are in the Super Bowl all of a sudden. So that's what I mean. As a fan, you have so much hope. And lastly, if my team loses one game in the NFL, the season isn't over. That's my other thing about it, because the playoff system isn't big enough. Like if my team loses one game, like I feel like I have no chance unless if I'm Clemson or Ohio State, like they're going to give me some grace, because the playoffs are picked by humans and it's not done mathematically. Like it's just by who's our favorite, and there's just too much uncertainty in college football with that, I should say. But I don't want. I'm in a problem because I'm a Boise State fan, and what is my team playing for every year? The RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl, whatever. Like, I don't care about that. I'm playing for a Mountain West championship. I really don't care about that much.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean, you play for the Idaho Potato Bowl, right? Like
exactly.
That's your bowl.
It's
a home game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So everything you're saying about the NFL is completely true. I do love watching, like every year you get so excited in training camp and like leading up to the season, like this is your year, and then you go 0-1 and you're like, all right, next year's my year, right? But
yeah, exactly.
But it's still fun to watch. There is more parity. Like NFL is based on parity. You can try to tank, but it doesn't really work because you need more than just one guy to flip your team around. That being said, if you are the worst team, you're going to get the best pick and so forth, right? Um, That being said, man, I love college football. I love waking up on a Saturday morning, turning on game day, all the games that are just being played. The rivalries are better in college than they are in the NFL.
Agreed.
You could say, as a Niners fan, you hate the Seahawks. I get it. There's been some tough games, but it's just not the same, right?
Sure.
And it is frustrating because there are so many flaws in college football still. Like Cincinnati has spent so much money to be competitive in football, and they never even had a chance at going into the playoffs, even though they were undefeated. And then they play a tough game against Georgia in the bowl, end up losing to Georgia. And that even just further hurts a non-Power 5 team from getting into the playoffs, because they're going to look at that game. Even though it was extremely competitive and Georgia had to come back to win, they're going to say, yeah, Cincinnati can't compete. Well, you know who else couldn't compete? Notre Dame. And they got in, okay? They couldn't compete. Nobody could compete with Alabama that year. So it didn't matter. Like, you could have put Army up against Alabama and it would have been just as competitive as Notre Dame or Ohio State. Like, who cares, right? You have to expand the playoff bubble, right? Like, even if you just want to keep it to 4 teams, get some new freaking teams in there.
Yeah.
And I don't get how the NCAA just doesn't understand that, because you grow your fan base, you grow engagement. I mean, people are going to tune in if you have an underdog. Like, everybody loves the story of David and Goliath. And you're going to tune in for that off chance that David takes down Goliath. And if he doesn't, you say, oh, well, like, that was meant to be.
It sounds like you're
watch it, right?
You're just supporting my side of this argument right now.
So,
I know I'm just throwing that out there.
That's why I'm so frustrated, because there's so many flaws there, but I'm still going to tune in and I'm still going to watch it because I love it. I love the story. I love, Justin Fields transferring from Georgia to take Ohio State on this run, and like getting hit in the ribs and staying into play. I love, Joe Burrow coming out of nowhere and just like tearing through the entire league. I love the chance that Cincinnati was even, considered, sort of, or there was that debate. The BYU Coastal Carolina game was one of the games I had watched all year and maybe in the last few years. And I have no ties to either of those teams. Like, I really didn't care. It was fun to watch Zach Wilson, and then it was just fun to see Coastal Carolina be this great team that everyone talked about. So, yeah, I'm so passionate, and like, I hurt because the NCAA can be so much better, and they already have a great product where you have built-in rivalries that are so ingrained and entrenched in families that it doesn't matter, who's playing where. They're not going to follow a player around because they graduate. You're going to follow a team, and you're going to be a diehard fan, and you're going to root for them forever. But they're just missing the mark, man.
Yeah. Well, what is so egregious about what the NCAA does is that the FCS has a playoff system that is much better. Like, that's what's so egregious. The only reason, you just follow the money, like anything in our life, follow the money. And they're just raking in so much money, having people buying the rights to name these bowl games, that you could still call them that. People would still pay. In fact, you think the RNL Carriers New Orleans Bowl, I don't even know if that's right, by the way. That's kind of what I remember. If they were, don't you think they'd rather host a 1 versus 16 playoff game than a freaking Raging Cajuns and UNL Monroe, whatever, UL Monroe playoff? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're probably going to make more money. It's just egregious that they, for some reason, act like it couldn't work when the FCS does it. And I'll tell you what, if you've never watched FCS playoffs, go watch FCS playoffs, because it is freaking awesome. I went to one. I went a couple years ago when I was out in Virginia. I went to James Madison versus Weber State. It was a quarterfinal. I don't think it was a semifinal. I think it was a quarterfinal. And but I got tickets, and I went out there with some buddies. James Madison won it on a field goal as time expired. It was like 37-34, and it legitimately is one of the best football games I've ever watched in my life. It was so awesome. So, like, and it's because they're playing for something. You're playing for something, but you legitimately, with the bowl system, you have people opting out of the bowls because they're like, what am I playing for?
Yeah.
What am I playing for? That's my problem. Like that in a nutshell. I everything you said is 100% true. The tradition and the roots of college run so much deeper than the NFL. The rivalries are fantastic. Some of the biggest stadiums in the world are college football stadiums. The atmosphere is untouchable. But as a fan, as someone, and maybe this explains it, as a fan I didn't go to one of these big schools with rich tradition. I'm a Boise State fan because my dad graduated from Boise State, and that's awesome. Like, it's fun to watch Boise State football, but at the end of the day, they play in the Mountain West. Like, I just don't care that much. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at with it. That's why.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. It's just, I think that's why I pick college football as slightly better, is because despite all those flaws, I'm still going to watch it, and I'm still going to be motivated, and I'm still going to be set on watching every Army-Navy game, obviously, every Texas football game, stay up late for the USC Pac-12 at night games.
Yeah.
Like, they're fun to watch. You see some creative plays, you see some wild stuff. It's just fun. I'm just going to beat on the drum, stand on my desk, like, fix college football before it's too late. Because you are, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I'm sure you are seeing a drop in people wanting to watch college football and more people wanting to watch the pros, because NFL is doing a much better job promoting and making parity and, like, talking about every player on every team. Where college football, if you're not Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State, like, what are you even doing? Right?
What are you doing? Yeah. I would say, I bet if you surveyed, like, every person that classifies them as a football fan, like, they watch football, I bet you if you surveyed every one of those in America, it would be overwhelmingly towards college football. Most of the people I speak to about this, or, like, just in general, like, I've heard way more positive things about college football and people loving college football than the NFL. I know that, like, in my, I don't even call it industry, but, like, coaching high school football, I know that everybody is more of a college fan. And not that they don't watch NFL, but they're college fans because the college game is so similar to the high school game. There's also the like, oh, we just played against that kid last year, and now he's playing at UT or he's playing at TCU. There's a lot of that going on. Or this guy down at that so-and-so school that we played this year, he just got a job as the running back coach at TCU. Like, there's a lot of that connection. So the world I live in is all about college football, and I love it. Like, I love it. I don't mean to, but it has nothing to do with the game in itself. It's just the system as a fan. Like, what do I want to watch and why do I want to watch it? But I would think more people would lean your way. I really do. And that speaks to the greatness of college football. Again, like, there's so many flaws that we see, yet it is still so popular.
Do you think college football would be hurt if there was compensation for players? I won't get into, like, the details of how you pay a player, but do you think it would be hurt?
I don't understand why it would be hurt. Why? Yeah. That doesn't make no, the answer is no. I think that while I'm not as pro, like, pay everybody, because I understand logistically it's really difficult. But the NCAA has proven over and over again that they're pretty incompetent at times. And they're pretty, like, not the best organization in the world, and no one views them as this great. There are more negative things said about the NCAA. So my only reasoning for them not doing it is they're just money hungry. They want a piece of everything, and if players can start getting paid, it takes money out of their pocket somehow. So that's
Yeah, I fully agree with you there. So I'm pro pay the players, like, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not gonna, join Tebow's bandwagon to say, like, oh, it takes away the integrity or whatever. Like, stop that stuff. But what I will say is, if go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I would say, like, when I think of paying players, like, at the very least, a player should be able to sell their signature on a piece of clothing without getting in trouble. Like, holy crap. That to me is where, like, that should be the baseline. And then if you're not comfortable, like, colleges actually direct depositing money into kids' accounts for their performance or whatever, like, at least start with, hey, if you want to sell stuff on Amazon or sell stuff on eBay you've signed to people, Like, why is this a problem? What is that? How is this a problem? This kid has earned this. Johnny Manziel's getting in trouble for signing stuff in a hotel room. Like, why? What are we doing here? You guys suck at your job. Like, why don't you worry about your job instead of trying to get people in trouble? Or we fix the playoff system, and then you can start getting people in trouble over stupid things. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm totally with you on all that. So I'm glad it's said. But what I was going to add is that if the NCAA doesn't fix some of these things, I want to see a bold conference commissioner. Larry Scott, I think, just got fired from the Pac-12 finally. If he hasn't been fired yet, he should be fired.
He was. They mutually parted ways, I think.
Yeah, mutually parted ways. Sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't get fired.
Yeah.
So the new Pac-12 commissioner, the Mountain West commissioner, make your own league and games. Like, you don't have to fall under the NCAA. It just means you won't play in the playoffs. But guess what? You weren't going to play in the playoffs anyway.
Anyway, exactly.
Because nobody views the Pac-12 with as much respect as the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, and even Big 12, right? So you're the odd conference out. So just go and make your own playoffs and just be bold. You have such big names with USC and UCLA and Stanford, Cal, all these teams, and you can own the West Coast.
That's an interesting idea.
Invite other people out there, man. So
you could go Pac-12, the Mountain West, which has some decent football with you have Boise State and Fresno State's played pretty well. You could also I bet you the American Conference that has Cincinnati and Memphis and Houston, they're tired of getting crapped on by the committee, and they would just leave too. I bet you could do something, because you're right. The Pac-12 needs something because they're on life support right now. Nobody takes them serious outside of Oregon. Oregon is the one team. People don't even take USC that serious anymore. Mm-hmm. They're the one team. They're on life support. That would be a way to really stir things up and probably stir some excitement into the mix. Yeah,
because you may take a hit if you're the schools for a little bit, missing out on some of the bowl payouts or whatever from the NCAA. But that's going to be pennies unless you're in the playoffs and in the championship. Mm-hmm. But if you go out and you promote and you do your own thing, you bring in other schools. Well, one, you don't have to split it with as many people. Mm-hmm. And then two, you bring in your own revenue. You start forcing the hand of the NCAA to start taking you guys seriously. Because if you start hurting their bottom line, that's when some things are going to change. So just stop you could almost create your own NIT tournament, right? So basketball has their March Madness. They have their top 68. The next, 64 teams play in their tournament. If you're not in the playoffs, just go play your own tournament. I'm going to tune in to watch Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati play a semifinal game or whatever, right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Because there's still so many big teams out there that aren't getting a shot in the top four. USC, UCLA, Texas, Oklahoma wasn't in it, right? Utah, some big schools that are missing out.
Yeah, I love that idea, man. Anything that promotes more meaningful football, I should say, I'm all for sure.
So, Andrew, appreciate the question. Good topic. Hopefully we answered it for you. Love to hear your feedback. Know what you guys think. Are you leaning college? Are you leaning NFL? And keep the questions coming, man. This is great. So always good to just hop on the podcast and answer some questions.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you, Andrew. All of fifth period, if you're watching, you have a quiz coming up this week, so you need to go study. All right. I've been talking about it for a week now, but we appreciate you guys. And it was fun. As Matt touched on a little earlier, we are coming up on part one of our draft preview.
Sure.
Pretty excited for it.
Next episode will be draft picks 1 through 16, and then we'll drop 17 to 32 right before the draft. So again, we're alternating picks going on the same draft board. So it's going to be who we would draft if we were the GM, head coach of that team. Seth's got odds, I got evens. Should be a good time.
Yep, it's going to be awesome. We're getting to the exciting stuff, everybody. So keep tuning in with us, and we appreciate you.
Till next time. Out.